My name is Kwabena Nkrumah, and we're in Atlanta, Georgia. And I work as the chair of a group called Neighborhood Planning Unit T, which is a citizens advisory council here in the southwest part of the city. I have a community development background. I've always cared about my community. I'm originally from Boston, Massachusetts, and really neighborhood-based city, has a real perspective. So when I came to Atlanta and learned of this system, I was really attracted to it. I first started out within a typical neighborhood association within the community I live in, which is the West End. But I began to realize that this is an opportunity to really try to affect some change, to go up through the ranks. NPUs, which is the acronym for Neighborhood Planning Unit, were set up by Maynard Jackson, who was the mayor in the mid-'70s, as a way to facilitate average citizen participation in city planning decisions primarily. And so over the years, it's evolved as a space where people are able to have a voice in city government. Yeah, we have generally between 60 to 100 people out of our the monthly meetings. So it's pretty significant, but our goal is to increase it a bit more because our challenge is to have equal representation throughout the NPU. We tend to be skewed towards some of the more larger, more iconic neighborhoods. And so we're trying to do more to reach out to more average citizens and make sure we have a good representation of the whole area. What we do is try to have activities that matter to people going on so to compel them to come out. And so, for instance, one of the initiatives we started last year was an urban agriculture initiative called the NPUT Community Food Project, where we basically called the community to envision creating a local food system for ourselves. Of course, in the current times, people are really interested in organic food and concerned about the food scares we've been having. So our goal is to produce enough food within the NPU to create a local economy where people are buying and selling food from one another, and that we have a real impact on people's health and welfare. And so that initiative has really compelled a lot of people to come out the woodwork and really get involved, because it's something that they can touch, feel, and understand and have a benefit from. People really didn't think it was possible. Even though we're still in the South, people have really been a generation or so removed from, either rural farms or even having gardens. And most people want a farmer's market. They're familiar with that concept, but mostly even that food is usually brought in from, some rural farms. And so when I said that, we can actually grow this food ourselves, people were like, yeah, right, but we got a grant from the Community Foundation of Greater Atlanta, and we were able to establish a 2.5-acre farm right in the middle of the neighborhood. And when people start coming by and seeing rows and rows of food growing right next to, a lot or, any of the things you might see in an urban area, the juxtaposition was a very powerful effect, and we got a lot of good news coverage and so forth. So people begin to believe, and start getting more involved. And so we have a subscription farm where people can buy shares and get allotment of food per week called CSA, or Community Supported Agriculture. And we had a lot of participation from families, and actually, made a difference in some families' budgets and their diet in the community. So it was a very powerful first year. We just started last year. What it does is it addresses some really huge problems, like basically the peak oil problem of, the biggest problem with agriculture is the fuel or energy that it takes to transport food from where it's grown to where people live, mainly in California and Florida and other areas of the country. And so urban agriculture really closes the gap between, where people live in these densely metropolitan areas and where their food is grown. And it has an environmental impact at that level, but the biggest impact is a social impact of connecting people and reconnecting people with land and the environment. It just changes a lot of the assumptions about people's responsibility for themselves and their community, and particularly with young people, it removes them from disassociation with what they know about where their food comes from, and more ownership of their health. And for some people, it's been an economic opportunity because there is a premium paid, of course, for locally grown organic food. A lot of it's pride, because it's getting out and around the city that we have this initiative in our area, and we're often maligned in the area for issues we have with crime and other things. And so to have a really positive story being told about a community in which we're really providing leadership for the city. There's a lot of other neighborhoods that are now beginning to move into this. We've actually served as an advisor to other communities who are getting into this. We had a sort of a conference around community gardening in our neighborhood end of last year, and people came from all over the region because they've heard about what we're doing. So that made our residents feel really proud about their neighborhoods. This particular thing is really just me trying to be the change I want to see in my own community. It's a lot of time, a lot of effort, but I don't know what else I would rather be doing. I mean, it just really makes you feel like you're in charge of the destiny of where you live, and that's a very empowering feeling. I really get a lot from it, and then particularly helping other people realize their own leadership skills. One of the things I'm most proud of is that we had a lot of participation. Is not, by far not anything I'm doing by myself. Just regular folks, finally learn how to chair a committee, put together an agenda, have a meeting, accomplish a project. When they're done with that, I mean, they just feel completely different about themselves and where they live, and so I really enjoy it. But yeah, it's all volunteer. I really feel strongly about trying to be a change agent within the world, based from a spiritual perspective, being responsible for not just myself, but my brother, my brother's keeper, sort of thing. And so for me, that's my motivation, is that I believe that whatever paradise may be pending toward us is something that we have to create ourselves. And so I'm driven by the need to express divinity, through how I live. And so the way easiest way for me to see God is in my fellow man and in my neighbor. And so I really feel compelled to be connected and engaged with improving the world we live in from that basis. That's what gives me the drive, because it's not always fun, it's not always easy, but I persevere in the same way that maybe other people do with a faith walk that has you expressing how your deepest beliefs. And so it's given me a real foundation in which I'm able to transcend like some of the negativity that comes when people don't understand what you're trying to do, or misinterpret your intentions, or when you just make mistakes. But I feel like that the church is the community for me. I get a strong influence from my mother, who had a little bit different perspective on her faith experience, but I saw in her a deep conviction and a commitment to a belief system. And certainly in her raising of us, she transferred a deep love for people. We always had people over our home when I was growing up. We will always be involved with helping a family who was in need. So she definitely demonstrated the core values from which I still draw from. I really just hope to continue a trajectory that I see of a more dispersed and a more decentralized sort of movement to create change in the world and the country. There's some hardcore realities we're up against as a society around energy, around the environment, around racial issues, around economic divides. And I just see people find those solutions at all corners of the world, whatever makes sense for them. And most importantly, drawing on their own assets that they have within themselves and in the communities. For myself, I just want to continue to model, those examples of what can be done, and share them with other people in other communities that are trying to do the same thing. And I just have focus in that disaggregated sort of activity happening, that we will wake up one day and it'll be a different kind of world, and we'll make it through the next century halfway intact. I have two beautiful children. My son Quasi is 3 years old. My daughter's turned 1 today, and that's a big motivation behind a lot of what I do as well. So hopefully leave them behind something worth me having been here. All I took him out to eat when he was a really young infant, just to get him comfortable with that environment. That's my goal, is for him to grow up just as comfortable, and it's just as norm for him to be involved with growing his food and knowing where it comes from as it is playing video games. So my responsibility is particularly to these 2 children that I brought into the world, and if I do that part really well, if everybody's doing that, and then we raise a generation that has a consciousness that can carry forth the work that needs to be done. But we do like to put the focus on things that we have control over, and that's why the Urban Act stuff was really important to us. But we're basically trying to operate on all cylinders and build a real vibrant, healthy community.